have celebrated it's the Love Month. It's a month, Black History Month. We have really so many ways celebrated this wonderful month, and we're still celebrating it even today, as we have one of our friends joining us all the way from Australia. And I know that a couple of weeks ago and last week, pretty much, we shared a whole lot of history, the Black History Month. And I know some of you also reached out, talked to me, some sent emails. I really appreciate your comments, your questions, and hopefully the information you gathered was helpful to learn more about how we care for one another as a nation, and how that all also tallies with what we are celebrating in February, which is the Valentine month, the month people care for one another, the month we demonstrate love for ourselves, for our families, and for the community. So this evening, I have in our midst Annie Book joining us from Australia. Like I said, I am gonna, Annie is really an international best-selling author. I'm gonna have her say a whole lot about herself and share with us, who she is, what she does, how she really is helping women and children. And so relax. Let's welcome Annie in our midst. Come on, Annie.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. I'm delighted to be here and share a little bit about what I do. I'm an international animal communicator and animal medium, which means that I have conversations with animals who are living and animals in spirit. And I've been doing that for over 10 years now. And I use telepathic communication, which is the language that animals use with each other. So if a human watches me or listens to me doing it, you can't hear anything because it's actually all in my head. So I hear the animal voices in my head, and they've all got different voices, just like humans do. And I can tell when they're smiling and when they're laughing. And some of them are real practical jokers, so I can tell that with what they tell me. And what I do with having conversations with animals is to provide peace of mind for their human parents. So if you've got questions for your animal, you want to know what's happening with health issues, or if they've got recent behaviour changes and you don't know why, I can actually ask them. I'm not a vet and I'm not an animal behaviourist, but because I'm a communicator, I can ask what's going on. And that can give the human parents a lot of peace of mind knowing what's really happening in their animal's world. And then for families who are experiencing the loss of an animal, I can also provide peace of mind because I can connect to the soul of the animal in spirit and again ask questions that the family want me to ask. So if the family weren't home when their animal passed away, or they don't have a diagnosis for why the animal passed away, I can ask them and they'll tell me. And it's really empowering for our animals to have conversations as well. So whether they're living or in spirit, it gives them the chance to tell their humans what they want to say. And it's just beautiful being able to share these messages of love and gratitude, which ties in with the month of February as well, because that's one of the most important things about having an animal in our life is the effect that they have on our heart. They actually help us evolve our hearts, which is part of our spiritual development journey. And a lot of people aren't aware that they're doing that, but that's what they do. They have a huge impact on our lives. And for some humans, having an animal may be the only other living being that they connect with on a regular basis. And that's their opportunity to experience unconditional love and to have the responsibility for someone else and be able to show that animal love and care as well. So part of my mission is to raise global awareness of the importance of animals, because I want everyone to know that animals have souls, that they feel emotions just like we do, that they understand everything we say, and that's fascinating. I get a lot of people telling me, oh yeah, they might understand no and walk, and that's it, but they actually have a very sophisticated understanding of language, which I'll share shortly. And I also want the world to know that our animals are not with us by coincidence. There will be a reason that our animals come to be with us. And so this is something that I particularly want our young people to understand, is the importance of animals. Some of the conversations I've had with animals recently, we've worked out that it's been people's childhood pets that have reincarnated and come back to them. And I wasn't aware of animal soul reincarnation until my animals let me experience it. And so it's something I've now been able to understand. I've written about it in my book, and I've been able to help a lot of bereaved families now, because the animals seem to know if it's their destiny to come back. They can tell me that what breed they're going to come back as, what gender, and what colour they're going to look like, so that I can let the families know and they can find them. And that's one of the most rewarding parts about my work, is seeing these stories when the animals come home and they're reunited with their family again, and they get a second lifetime at love. Now, unfortunately, it's not every animal's destiny to come back, but a lot of them do. And there's a lovely movie called A Dog's Purpose. I don't know whether you've seen that or not, with Dennis Quaid. And the stories in that movie are what I experience with my clients on a regular basis. And for those of you who haven't experienced it before, it can sound very weird and you may be very skeptical, and I totally understand it. But because I've experienced it so many times now, it's made me change my understanding of reality and my understanding of the world. So the animals have taught me that, yes, once they pass over, we no longer have their physical presence with us, but their soul endures, and we can always connect with their soul. So I've actually had a conversation with a dog who passed over more than 20 years ago. So there is no true separation. We're on the physical plane, they're on the spiritual plane in spirit, but we can still communicate with them, and that's really reassuring for families as well. They've also taught me that... Sorry?
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I just thought I heard some noise.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
They've also taught me that they can come back to visit us on an energetic level. And they haven't explained how this happens yet, and I don't know how they do it, but somehow they put on a temporary physical body so that we can see them when they come back. And I've had lots of people tell me they've seen their animal running up and down the corridor. Now, they don't own a physical body anymore. They're a soul in spirit, but somehow they do that, so we recognise them. So to all of you who have experienced seeing your animal in spirit visit you, I just want to let you know that you're not going crazy, and it's something that they do to let us know that their soul has transitioned safely, but they're keeping those bonds of love with us by coming back and visiting us. Now, as well as seeing our animals in spirit, sometimes we hear them. So one of my girl cats in spirit used to come back and meow very loudly so that I would hear her and know that she was with me. And I've had other people hearing their dogs barking and their cats talking. I've had one lady hearing her bird tweeting at her. So they do what they can to let us know when they come back for a visit. And then some people feel their animals. So one of my cats comes back and he very gently plays with the hair on the back of my head, because that's what he did as a kitten. He used to sleep on my pillow and massage my head. So I feel him when he's around me. I've had people feel their animals jumping on the bed. One of my friends, her dog jumped on the bed with such force he actually knocked 2 pillows off. So they can be quite powerful when they come back to let us know that they're there. You might feel them lying down on the bed snuggled into you. They can come up and touch you on the face with a paw. I've got one cat who used to come back and sit behind the blinds in the bedroom and wobble the blinds, and that's what she did when she was alive. That was her special thing she did. So her mum knew that she was in the house with her when she heard the blinds wobbling. So it's just incredible what they can do as a spirit, but it's just another confirmation that that bond that we develop with them persists. It doesn't stop once they pass over from the physical plane. So a lot of my conversations are around answering the human's questions. Some people are carrying a lot of guilt and remorse about the decisions they made at end of lifetime for their animal. And I can reassure you that no animal holds any grudges about the decisions their humans have made for them. They know that we do everything out of love. We've got their best interests at heart. Sometimes our animals stay longer than they should just because they don't want to leave us. And sometimes, you know, they're cool and it is hard for them to pass over on their own. And so they do need to rely on us to get assistance for them to pass over. And I know for a lot of people that is very confronting to make that choice, but our animals are just so grateful once they've passed over because they're no longer in pain. And once they do pass over, the soul goes through a healing process. So interestingly, the animals I get to speak to on the other side, I see them as physically healed. So they're running around healthy as though they're young kittens or young puppies having a childhood, because all of those physical ailments have been healed and they're no longer affecting them. And really the only thing that they're missing is their humans back here on the physical plane. So it's reassuring finding out that they're okay, and they can give me messages to confirm that I'm definitely talking to them and I'm not just having a conversation by myself. So one of the most profound conversations I had was with a blind cat who was in spirit, and his mum had lots of questions for him and he was happy to answer them. And then at one stage in the conversation, he said to me, "Rumple teaser." And I listened to that word and thought, what is he trying to tell me? And I thought, is he trying to say Rumpelstiltskin and I just haven't heard it properly? But then I thought, no, that doesn't really make any sense with the conversation we're having. So I thought, I must be hearing things. So I just continued the conversation, and then he said it again very clearly. Now, I don't know his mum. She just said, I connect with animals through photographs. So I just need a photograph of the animal showing their face with their eyes open and the questions that the humans want me to ask. So I asked the questions and I was looking at the photo, and so I typed Mum a message and I just said, was he ever called Rumpelteaser? And there was silence for a while, so I thought, oh, she's going to think I'm crazy. But then she answered back and she said, oh, yes, I'd forgotten all about that. And apparently when she rescued him, he was living with a dog called Rumpel, and he used to get in trouble for teasing the dog. So he got called Rumpelteaser. He couldn't even see the dog to tease the dog, but that was the name that he was given. And it was so clever of him to tell me that name, because that made his mum know that I was definitely talking with him. And it let me know now that when I hear weird words that make no sense in the conversations, that they're actually like a code word, and it's up to the parents to decipher what the word means. And I've had that happen numerous times now, but that Rumpelteaser experience for me was just very profound, to know that that's how intelligent our animals are, to send messages in code to their humans. So in addition to having conversations with animals, I also offer a couple of programs. So at the moment I'm doing an animal communication mentorship program where I'm working with animal parents and a couple of their animals to help master animal communication so that they can actually speak telepathically to their animals and have conversations with them. And it's been really interesting because animals, like humans, have a preference for their communication style. So some of them are very strong visually, and so they'll send their humans pictures of what they want to tell them, or even little video snippets of what they want to tell them, or they can spell the words out that they want to show them in letters. So recently we asked a cat to send an emotion to her mum as the letters of the word, and so she sent the images of LOVE, so her mum got that message. So they're very clever how they do that. They can also send emotions and feelings, so we can actually feel what they're trying to communicate with us as well. So telepathic communication covers all of those different aspects, and that's what we practice in the sessions. So I do fortnightly mentoring sessions, and I actually work with the animals prior to that to let them know what the exercises are that we're going to be doing, so they've got a chance to think about what responses they'd like to send. So in a recent session, we asked one of the cats to send a word starting with S. So he sent supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And I thought, wow, how does the cat know that? And then he sent his mum an image of him rolling his eyes, like, you know, try and send me a hard question, Mum. It was quite funny. And then we asked his sister cat to send a word starting with the letter T, and she said Tyrannosaurus Rex. So it's just amazing what they know, and they use words that we don't use in everyday conversation. So that another animal I've been speaking with, he used the words turgid and chevalier as some of his answers. And some of the words I've said recently, I've actually been looking up in the dictionary while we've been doing this session, because they're words I've never heard of, but they're in the dictionary. So that they just really do have a sophisticated understanding of English. And they understand the concepts of the question. So we ask them to send a coloured number to their human. And so they'll get like a pink number 2 or a blue number 7. So they understand colours, they understand numbers. So, yeah, just very interesting to see how they interpret the questions and how they respond. And some of them are so smart and they're enjoying the exercise so much, they'll actually send 2 answers to show how well they understand what we're asking them to do. So that's the Animal Communication Mentorship Program. I also offer a animal bereavement program where I work with bereaved animal family members to help them through the grief process. So I'll have a couple of conversations with their animal in spirit and answer their questions. I also look into the relationships with the animal, so whether you've had a soul connection with them in this lifetime or whether it's been a previous lifetime. And some of you may be unaware of past lives, but that's something that the animals have taught me, that sometimes they've actually had a human lifetime with us in a previous life, or they may have had an animal lifetime, or both. And so some of the really strong bonds we have with our animals that we can't explain why is because we have this really powerful soul connection, and our souls may have known each other for thousands of years. And it's just incredible unravelling how we know each other and what that connection is. We can also find out why our animals are actually with us. And it's interesting because a lot of people think they're rescuing animals, but often it's actually the animals who are rescuing us. So animals and humans are souls that come to Earth. So animals come in an animal body and we come in a human body, but we all have a life purpose and we all have soul lessons to learn. And so the animals have told me that sometimes they come to their humans so the humans can help them with their soul lessons, and sometimes they come to the humans to help them with their soul lessons. And some of our animals are here to teach us. So once we can communicate with them, they can start teaching us, which is what happened with some of my cats. They're here to teach me. Some animals are healers, and so they're to help us heal. And some animals are guardians. And those of you who have guardian animals will know this, because they're the animals that get upset when you go away and they don't know where you're gone. They feel as though they're failing as a guardian to protect you. If you go out, they've got no idea where you've gone. They don't know when you're coming back, and they don't know if you're coming back. And particularly if they've experienced abandonment before, if you go away and they don't know where you are, they can fear that that's going to happen again. So because animals understand absolutely everything that we say, it's so important to let them know if you're going out. So even if you're just going shopping and you'll be out for an hour and you'll be back, let them know. So just say, look, I'm going out for an hour, I'm going to get some dog treats and some dog food, and then I'll be home. They understand the concept of time. They can count down that hour till you're home, and it reduces their anxiety level. And if you're going away, and just tell them, look, I'm going away for 2 sleeps. This is the person who'll be looking after you, and then I'll be home. Again, it really helps the anxiety. They know that you're away, they know that you're coming back, and they know when you're coming back. But really the most important thing you can do to deepen your relationship with your animal is to communicate with them. So even if you can't communicate telepathically, just talking to them verbally, they understand. And they just want to be involved in what we're doing, because to them, we are their world. So even if you're washing up, you're hanging out the washing, you're folding clothes, it doesn't matter. They just love hearing what you're doing. And once they know that you know that they understand everything you're saying, that changes the relationship with you as well. And I've had people telling me that their animals have been more attentive, more eye contact, more affectionate, just after having one verbal conversation, knowing that they're understanding what you're saying. And part of what I want to do is to let our young people know how important that is as well, so that they learn how to respect animals, that they understand they're with them for a reason. They help us to experience love, and it makes our life a lot richer and our animals' life a lot richer when we can communicate with them and share what's going on. So I'll just stop there for a minute in case you've got any questions.
Wow, that's a lot of information. I mean,
Yep.
Wow, I'm really blown away by what you just shared with us about animals. And I have to be honest about my relationship with animals, especially dogs. Because it went as far back as when I was in my mother's womb. My mom was 7.5 months pregnant, 8 months with me when she was bitten by a stray dog. And unfortunately, that dog ran away and eventually died. And so my mom had to go through that whole trauma, making sure that I'm okay and stuff like that. So when I was born, my mom did share that, that whole story with me. And I don't know whether I want to say that has put some kind of a distant relationship between me and every dog. I just don't like dogs. I don't really relate with them. But cats, I really, each time I see a cat, whether they know me or not, they come close to me. And I'm like, I have thought about it, but the conclusion I drew was, well, maybe the dogs scared me, and I just don't want relationship with them because of that experience. So I'm just wondering, how can you speak a little bit on that? About
I think
relationships.
a number of people have had scary experiences with animals, and that then puts up that barrier that you don't want to be in that same situation again. So it's kind of fearing a repetition of what you've experienced before, and that's understandable. But every animal is different, and a lot of our animals are here, they're looking for love and they're looking for security. And a lot of them do love interacting with humans. So, and I spend a lot of time at zoos talking to the animals there, because I think a lot of them want to talk, and there's not a lot of people that go in and telepathically communicate with them. And they all just love chatting about what's going on. So I think even if you've had a scary experience and you were in utero at the time, although you didn't physically experience it on a level because your mum experienced it, the energy and experience of that you've been affected by as well. So it may well be that you've got a friend who's got a very friendly little dog who's not very threatening, that you might be able to go and visit and just sit there and just sort of say hello and not even touch them, but just see what they do and get used to being in the presence of the animal, and building up to the point where you can actually have them around you or pat them, or they might even jump up on your lap and want to spend some time with you and give you some love, because that's what our animals want to do. They want to share that love. They radiate love energy. Horses are particularly powerful at healing because they radiate such a huge energy force field from them. And I know a couple of people who actually run healing practices with the horses, and you go there as a human and all the horses come around you and send you that healing energy. So there's a lot of good that they can do. But I totally understand when you've had that experience, it can deter you from opening it up. But it's similar to people that have never had an animal. So I've spoken to people recently that never had childhood pets. They've never been in a situation to own an animal. They've never interacted with an animal. But there are opportunities for them. They can go to a zoo. They could go to a pet shelter and volunteer there and interact with animals. So there are still ways that people can benefit from their love. And again, that's still tying into the love theme for February, but it's just so important that people don't take their animals for granted, and that they are open to developing a relationship with them. Yes, I have a very strong affinity with cats and bears. And so wherever I go, I love seeing the big cats and the bears in all the animal parks and zoos and finding out what they want to tell me. So everyone's different. Some people like reptiles. I've got a couple of snakes as clients that I have conversations with, spoken with lots of horses, but all sorts of different animals at zoos, including crocodiles. So all of them can talk, and all of them can teach us things as well. So it's an opportunity for us to grow.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Something you said there about communicating with them and them actually identifying maybe one who is friendly or not. When we were growing up, we grew up with a lot of animals. I mean, like in our environment. The one who I know we grew up a lot with was chicken. We have a chicken house, and we as kids we actually run to see when they start laying eggs. It's unbelievable how that whole thing happens. And when time is a time for the mom to get the eggs, to open it with her pet, we'll go to Pip, and she gets so aggressive with us. So, but the other thing I wanted to share also about animals was we had sheep and goats and all that, and we kept them in the house. My dad took care of them. I used to bring them all kinds of leaves, for them to feed. And the one thing that I was so shocked about was every time my dad comes home, I mean, they are their own, they have their own little house. As soon as they hear my dad's voice, they start responding. And we're like, how come we're here, they don't talk to us? As soon as they hear my dad's, they start to respond. I'm like, wow. Well, as a kid, that really, that wowed me. But, as you grow up, you forget stuff like that. And if nobody is there to teach you, then you don't learn. So I was really baffled at what you were sharing about communication. And I know that some animals have ways to communicate. But in most cases, we don't even pay attention. We don't have the skills, I would say. So you're the first person now that I have met that has that skill. And I think it's a skill that really everyone should learn. And to some extent, how to really relate with animals, because that's the reason why you're in existence, if you know what I mean. And many of us really share some qualities, honestly, common qualities. And look, say for example, you have goats or sheep or even dogs. They have their babies. They breastfeed their own babies. I mean, they took care of their babies from the time they were pregnant until the baby is born. And as soon as the baby is born, baby latches and everything like that. And I used to say that to some of my clients, and I'm like, no animal looks for other breast milk from another animal except human beings. We should really learn from the animals. How is it that they take care of their own without all kinds of, staff requirements that we are imposing on ourselves, or even making some of the excuses that we do, saying, oh, I don't have enough breast milk, I'm not eating well. But how do animals do it? You know what I mean? And some animals can have 2, 3, 4, 5 at the same time. So I am really thrilled that you have this skill, and I'm just going to open it up. I'm sure the people are excited just like me and have some questions for you. Hannah, you have something to share?
Hi, Zita. How are you?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. But this was, what a presentation. In fact, last night I was on a Zoom. It's an Eckankar group, and they're talking about animals have souls. you know, that was what the presentation was, and we talked about our animals and how we interact with them. So this was so great. But I have a couple of stories to tell. First, my grandson is autistic. He's 23 now. When he was 3 or 4, my daughter-in-law brought him to it was like the horses were therapeutic. You know, they worked with children with disabilities, and he learned a lot. He'll go, and even till today, he'll go horseback riding, and he's 22, God bless him. But she started him, I think he was 3 years old, for a lot of his elementary life when he was little, on horses, and they really helped him. And, you know, then I had another situation. We had a dog, and unfortunately we let the dog out, and my husband found the dog dead. He got hit by a car. I mean, it was horrible. And, you know, my husband, I grow up with dogs, but my husband did, and he was devastated. Anyway, we didn't tell our children. The kids were in college. I'll never forget this. My daughter came into the house from, it was a college break. And all of a sudden I heard like a tap, tap, tap on a door. I had a basement. And I opened the door, and there was a little bird sitting on a step. And, you know, in other words, the kids didn't know that the dog died. So this have been a message? Because that little bird was sitting on the step, my daughter's come in, and it was just unbelievable. So maybe it was a message.
I've actually had a few experiences of the animal souls coming back in a bird and visiting their family. So that's why I'm nodding my head, confirmation of that. So they do want to reassure us that they're still around us, and that's an opportunity. And as I said, I had no idea about this soul reincarnation, but that's just something that they can do. Sometimes they come back as the same breed. Sometimes they come back as a different breed. So I've got a cat who has come back as a dog because she wanted to come back as a dog and go to dog cafes and go for walks and go with the family on holidays. I've got someone else I know whose dog has come back in their cow, and the cow comes running up to meet him and behaving like a dog. It's unbelievable. But yes, I've had the thing where the souls can temporarily swap into a bird or butterflies and come and spend time with us and reassure us that they're okay. So it's just fascinating finding out that they're doing that. So I can actually say I've had experience with other clients with that same thing. So thank you for sharing that story. But going back to the story about the horses, yes, they're very powerful healers, and they're also very intuitive. So if you take a group of kids with any kind of disabilities, they'll know who they need to spend time with, and it does change the child, and they're being of service to us, and they love being able to heal us as well. So it's such a beautiful relationship when they can break down those barriers that nobody else can, because it's just pure coming from the animals. But the other thing I wanted to say, going back to Zita's question about communication, it's something that we all do with animals when we're little. And if you look at little kids, they squat right down next to the animal and they'll tell you what they're saying. And most parents go, oh, yes, dear, very nice, not understanding that they're genuinely having a conversation. And then something happens as we grow up, and that telepathic communication channel gets closed. But it's something that we can reactivate again, and so we can learn to have those conversations. And as you were saying with the experiences with your family animals responding to your dad, they're very perceptive about our energetic frequency. So they will have picked up your dad's energy. They're also sensitive to when our frequency drops. So we all vibrate at a certain frequency, and once we get ill, our frequency level drops, and our animals can sense that, and often they know before we know that we're starting to get ill. So they'll instinctively spend more time with us because they want us to get better as soon as possible. So they might be lying on us or lying next to us, trying to give us that healing so that we can get better. They can also sense our moods. So they're like a little walking barometer for us as well. So they can tell when we're sad or upset about something. And so they will deliberately go and do something goofy to make us laugh because they know they can. And that would change the mood and change the atmosphere. They're just so intelligent, the fact that they can do that. But it's just amazing what they can teach us. And yes, with a lot of relationships, like looking after our young, being tolerant of other species, mourning when we lose a family member, the joy of when you have a baby, all of those kind of things that animals can teach us. So that's why I love looking at them in nature, because they can just teach us so much. We just need to spend the time looking at them and watching and listening. And then once we can communicate, they can tell us. But until we can communicate telepathically, they can communicate with body language. They can change behaviour, which is a very effective way of letting us know that something's going wrong. They can vocalise, or they can use their eye language and the way they look at us. So they do everything they can to tell us things. And it must be so frustrating for them when they're trying to get a message to us and they're just not getting it. They don't complain. Like none of the animals I've ever spoken to have said, I've been trying to tell Mum that for ages. They don't do that. They're just very pure souls. They just love us. They have our best interests at heart. They offer very constructive advice. There's nothing negative about what they say, but they really want to help us.
Right. That's really great. Yeah. I see you have a Reiki master. You're a Reiki master. I'm a Reiki practitioner, not a master. Yeah. So my question is, do you use that, in the animals?
Yes.
Okay. But
so
how does, yeah.
Yep. Because I'm very interested in what I call natural healing modalities. So Reiki, which is the energy, crystal therapy, because crystals all vibrate at different frequencies and our animals are very sensitive to that. That helps with healing as well. And essential oils, which are plant-based oils, and they all vibrate at a certain frequency and they're natural. So a combination of those I use to support animals and humans with their health and well-being. And so another thing animals have taught me is that sometimes they actually take on our health symptoms for us. So even though we don't ask them to do that, it's something they can do to be of service to us and to help us. And I didn't realise they could do that until I started experiencing with my cats. And my lovely red cat, who you can see on the banner behind me, just before I went on a retreat to write my first 2 books, I was very sick with a chest infection. And then a couple of days later, he's got a chest infection. Now, I can't give it to him. He's an indoor cat, so he hadn't been anywhere to get it, and my other cats were fine. So he'd deliberately taken that on to help me so that I would get better quicker, so that I could go and write my books, because he knew how important it was for me to write the books. I was speaking to someone recently who's looking after a human who's got diabetes and pancreatitis. And not long after she started looking after this person, her cat got diabetes and pancreatitis. Now, there are no coincidences. These things just happen. And it's interesting because the soul who is in the cat knows the human who has those conditions, so has deliberately taken on the symptoms to help that human. And that's just what they do. So I'm at the point now when I get people telling me that, their cat's got or animal has all these issues, I say, who else in the family has the same issues? And I spoke to a dog recently who had a long list of things, symptoms that they had. And I said, how much of this is yours and how much of this is your human's? And she said, only the anxiety is mine. Everything else she was taking on for her human mum and her human grandmother. And the anxiety was because she was worried about her mum. So every other symptom that she had was all energetic, taking it on for her humans. So it's just been amazing finding out that they do this, but then reassuring them, saying, thank you for doing it and helping, but your mum would really prefer it if you're healthy. And then she's not carrying all that stress worrying about your health issues, which are really her health issues. So yeah, animals are just incredible. I just learn every conversation I have. I learn. I wrote, excuse me, I wrote my 2 books in 2018, and I've learnt so much since from the conversations. I'm actually writing my 3rd book now because they just share so much wisdom with me, and I just want to share that with the world.
So, what language do you? Maybe you've mentioned that, but animals live in different countries, different culture, different families. So, do they have a common language, or how? I mean, like.
Yep, it's really interesting. I speak English to them, and I've spoken to animals all around the world, and they all seem to universally understand English, whatever country they're in. When I wrote my book, The Bridge to Animal Consciousness, there's a chapter in there where I spoke to a number of what I called spokes animals in the wild. I asked a number of different species if I could talk to someone so they could contribute something to the book, just to talk about what's happening for them on a daily basis in the wild. And so they all understood me. But then I spoke to someone yesterday and she speaks German to her animals. But every now and then she'll say something in another language. And she said they all just turn around and look at her if she says something in a different language because they're not used to hearing that. So it seems to be that whatever language you speak, they understand. They can also speak to a couple of people at the same time, which I think is just phenomenal. I've been somewhere where I spoke to a very special white lion. He was actually having a conversation with a number of us in the group at the same time. So he was just intelligent enough that he could have separate conversations simultaneously. So they are very gifted, and people just think, oh, they're just a pet, and they just don't understand. Some of these are very evolved souls, so they may have had multiple lifetimes on Earth before they come to us. And as I said, some of them may have been human, some of them may have been animal. But yeah, there is so much that they can teach us if we're open to learning.
Wow. Jeez. Huh. That's incredible. Now, I have a question about, so I know you've taken care of a whole lot of animals. Do you have a favorite animal?
It's like crystals. You're not allowed to have a favourite because you don't want the other ones to get upset. But as I said, I do have a very strong affinity with bears, all kinds of bears. I love going and seeing polar bears, grizzly bears, sun bears, all sorts of bears. And I love the big cats and the smaller cats. So any opportunity I get to go and spend time with cats, I do. But of all of those animals, the cheetah is my favourite. And I think, they have the toughest time surviving because they're not built for defence. So poor mum might end up with 6 or 8 cubs, but she can't defend with her claws. Her claws are built for running, not for defence. And so, they're subject to predators and all sorts of things. So it's very hard for the cubs to survive. So I just really admire their resilience. But also their athleticism, like the way they can run, is just remarkable. So any opportunity I can get to see cheetahs, I do. I can see Hannah's got her hand up again as well.
Go ahead, Hannah.
I love this.
Yeah. Wow.
I had an incident. A family member who lives down in Texas has a dog who's very hyper. I mean, this dog bites. So people are afraid of this dog. We had gone down to visit. It was birthday, and I went to their home, and the dog was there. And even, a lot of the family members are afraid of this dog. But anyway, I went over to the dog, and I was petting this dog and saying, "Oh, you're so sweet. You're so cute." And the dog was so calm, like they couldn't believe it. But this family has issues, with children and other things. So what Annie said is true. But I mean, I just was very, very loving to this animal who would be jumping up and biting, but he was so calm and sweet, and it was just amazing. I mean, I felt so good to see this dog not biting.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes they are just trying to get messages through. So that dog could have been very frustrated if he's been trying to bark and bite and do everything to get someone's attention and everyone's ignoring him.
Right.
And if you go there with that calm, loving energy and you want to engage and spend time with them, they just love that. So that's just such a beautiful experience that the dog got to have.
And I got to have it. I just felt it.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I haven't said yet, I also have a podcast show called What Animals Tell Me, where I share some of the amazing stories that they've told me, but also interview people who work with animals in unique ways. And I offer free masterclasses for animal parents twice a month, where I share information like I have done today about a variety of different topics, just so that people can understand their animals on a deeper level. So for people listening now or afterwards, you're welcome to connect with me on Facebook or on LinkedIn. So Annie Burke, Bourke, and my website is www.cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. So Cosmic Heart Intuitive, all one word, .com.au. But I'm happy to chat with people about their animals. I do Zoom chats. It's just fascinating finding out why your animal's with you and what they want to tell you. But I just want the whole world to know that animals have souls, that it's important that we're doing work to help conserve habitats for them and to help protect them so that they can live a life of peace and harmony just like we want to.
So, how did you get into this specialty? What really drew you?
Yep. For as long as I can remember, I always thought that my animals could understand everything that I was saying, and I wish that I could understand what they were trying to say back to me. And I actually used to say, I wish I could speak cat, because I could just tell through their eyes, that the way they looked at me, that they were trying to tell me something. And at one stage, I had a little ginger and white girl cat. And I understand about 97% of ginger cats are boys, so it was unusual to get a ginger girl. So she was very special. And unfortunately, she passed away after a very short illness. And it just made me feel as though I'd missed the opportunity to get to know her and find out what she wanted to tell me. So she actually inspired me to look for an animal communication course. And I found one online, and the image of the cat on the front of the website looked exactly like her. And I thought, well, there's a big sign from the universe that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've actually spoken to her since in spirit and said, look, I feel as though I missed that opportunity to talk to you. And she said, no, that was her job. That was her mission, was to get me to start this path to animal communication, because she knew that was my purpose and that was what I was supposed to be doing. So she's got no regrets about that at all. And so I'm in the fortunate position now that I can talk to my animals in spirit. And I can talk to my animals who are here, and they can still teach me, whether they're here with me physically or with me on the other side. But yeah, so I had 2 cats with me at the time, so they became my very patient teachers. And then I started practicing with friends' animals so they could actually confirm some of the answers that I was getting, because it's so easy to doubt yourself, like with that rumple teaser word, you can convince yourself that you're hearing things. So I just wanted to practice and get some confirmation that I was getting accurate answers. But now I go to zoos and I talk to animals in the zoos, and if they're not comfortable with the temperature in their enclosure, or they've got aches or pains or something, I can pass those messages on to their keepers, and they're very open to getting that information. And it's all just to make the animals have a better quality of life. So that really helps. And then I've been having conversations now for over 10 years, but I've been doing my business very part-time because I had a full-time job. But I actually gave that up at the end of May last year so that I could be in my business and have a full-time business so that I can help more animals and more humans. So I'm doing lots of podcast opportunities like this one, just so I can let people know more about their animals and to deepen their relationships with their animals. It's just another way to get my mission achieved by raising that global awareness about the importance of animals. So thank you for the opportunity today.
Oh yeah, thank you for sharing. Oh my goodness, that's very very informative. I've never, like I said, I've never come across anybody that has this kind of a knowledge and skills, with animals and able to actually impart that knowledge to other people. So thank you so much for coming to share with us. I have another question for you. I know that when we talk about animals like cats or dog, but how about lions and elephants? So have you had any close, connection with them? And was that the same as cats? What I mean is like smaller and bigger animals.
Yep. So I'm just going to pop my contact details in the chat. Just one second.
Yeah, okay, that would be great. Yeah.
So I'm just popping my email in and then just my name. Okay, so I've just popped my email, my name for Facebook and LinkedIn, and my website. Yes, I've had some amazing conversations with lions. I love talking to lions. So for me, once you can connect telepathically with an animal, you can talk with any animal, whether they're domestic, in the wild, in zoos, it doesn't matter. They understand it because it's how they all talk to each other. So I just introduce myself and say that I'm practicing animal communication, and is it okay if I have a conversation with them? I've only had 2 animals in a zoo who didn't want to talk, and I just have to respect that. It's a free will thing for our animals. I can't force them to have a conversation. I can't force them to answer questions. But basically, apart from those 2 who didn't want to talk, everyone else has. So I was in England and it was a really hot day, and I visited the zoo at Chester, and I wanted to see the lions, but they were all lying down in the shade because it was so hot. And there were tons of school kids there on trips, and they're all standing there at the fence roaring at the lions and yelling at them to wake up. And of course the lions just ignored that. So once all the kids had moved away, I connected with the male and just introduced myself and said, look, we're here visiting from Australia, and I'd really appreciate it if he could just pop his head up for a minute so we could see his face and take a photo. And he sat straight up and looked directly at me. And the lady standing next to me said, he's looking right at you. And I said, yes, I know, I asked him to. Anyway, he's just stood there, sat there so majestically looking at me. So I got some lovely photos of him, and then plopped back down again and back to sleep again. So I just said, thank you for doing that. So, and I've had conversations with them, and I've actually included the conversations in my book. So my animal book is The Bridge to Animal Consciousness. And in there, I had a very profound conversation with a white lion and another one with a tawny lion, and they both told me why their particular lions are on the planet. So spiritually, white lions are here to be helping mankind, doing certain things, and then the tawny lions are here doing certain things to help us as well. So it was fascinating to learn why they're here. And then my second book, which is Evolving Hearts and Souls, The Guide to Spiritual Awakening. When I woke up, I didn't know that you could wake up, and I didn't know that I was waking up, and I couldn't find anyone to explain to me why weird things were happening to me. And I actually had my clairvoyant powers switch on. So I'd be having a conversation with someone like you, and all of a sudden I'd have these images of your past, and I'd see images of your future. And I'm thinking, what is this? And what am I supposed to do with it? And I spoke to a few people about it, and they said, oh, no, don't dabble in that. So I listened to them and I stopped for years. And then a friend found a spiritual development course, and she's very intuitive, and she said, I thought you might be interested in this. So I went along, my clairvoyance switched back on, healing switched on, a whole lot of other spiritual gifts switched on. And so I've just been on a journey since with the animals and with the healing side, and also supporting humans on their spiritual development journey as well. Because when it happens to you and you don't know anyone else who's woken up, you don't know where to get help. You can think you're going crazy. And I just wanted to reassure people that some of the weird stuff that happens is quite normal. And that's what I found with my spiritual development journey and with my animal communication journey, that it has totally changed my understanding of reality. So I've got a new understanding now that we have life after life. We don't just pass over and that's it. The soul endures. And in some cases, that soul can come back and reincarnate. And sometimes our animals might have a previous animal soul in them, but they also might have a previous human soul in them. So I've had a number of people that they've got their grandmas back with them in different animals. I've got people that have had children that passed away prematurely that have come back in an animal so they can actually have a longer lifetime with their humans. So all the stuff that they're teaching me about these soul journeys, you know, you just don't find that information easily. So that's, again, why I'm trying to share this information. And I know it's very confronting or challenging for people to listen to if they've never heard of these concepts before. But I've had 10 years now to adapt and change my thinking about it. But I feel as I'm honouring the animals by sharing the wisdom that they've shared with me. So yes, sorry, Hannah just asked a question about my 2 books. So The Bridge to Animal Consciousness and Evolving Hearts and Souls. So Annie Burke, Bourke. They're available from Amazon as ebooks or as the paperbacks. And I'm writing my 3rd book at the moment, all about the soul journey information that the animals have been teaching me. I've just got some remarkable examples. A dog I've spoken with recently is about to reincarnate and have his 4th lifetime in a row as a dog with his mum in this lifetime. And she didn't realise, she thought his soul had been in a previous dog, but didn't realise that this was actually her childhood pet soul that's just kept coming back, and he's about to be back for the 4th time. Now, interestingly, she wanted to know who he was with on the other side. And I don't like answering this question because sometimes our animals have actually made new friends on the other side. And so when I tell the parents who they're with, they don't know who I'm talking about. But he actually told me Charlie and Dusty. And his mum said that Charlie is her cousin's dog who's in spirit, and the 2 dogs spent a lot of time together. So the girls did wonder if they were actually spending time together in heaven. So it was reassuring that they are together. And Dusty was her childhood dog. And so that's his soul in that dog. And it was interesting because I then spoke to his sister dog who's alive, and she said to me, Mum will know who Charlie is. And she said, Dusty is Duke. And I thought, I don't know who Duke is. At this stage, I didn't know who Dusty was. And I didn't know that she was eavesdropping on the conversation either. So she knew I was concerned. I wanted to get the accurate names to give Mum. So when I said to Mum about the Dusty and Duke, Duke was her 2nd dog. And she thought that Duke's soul was in her 3rd dog. She's very intuitive, but she didn't know that Dusty had gone to be Duke. So she's had Dusty and Duke and her 3rd dog, who's now going to come back as the 4th dog. And I know a number of people where they've had the same animal soul in 3 successive animals in this lifetime. So although it's not every animal's destiny to come back, it's just fascinating that they can. And it's as though they still haven't finished their life mission with us, and they've got to keep coming back and helping us on the physical plane. And it's just so lovely that they do that.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness, we learn every day. Thank you so much for coming. And this is really deep for me. And hopefully we're gonna have to have you come back, really, because we need to learn more. We need to know how to really communicate with animals. I don't really know anybody who can boast of knowing the animals, even those that have had the animals for years and years, because what you're bringing to us is completely new as far as I'm concerned, and this really opens door for more communication with animals, more relationship, and better understanding, with animals and our attitude towards our animals. I think that's really very, very incredible that you have this gift, and for sure, this is your calling And listening to you, one would really agree that this is coming from your soul and that you're sharing with the world what you've been given to share with us. And I really appreciate it. Our audience, I'm sure everybody has really gotten a lot of information about relating with animals. And we are so thankful. And for those who will be watching our podcast later, please, if you need to reach out to any, her information is there in the chart. If you're not able to do that, reach out to us and we'll make sure we connect you with her. And she has her books. Please go to the Amazon, you said, right? Your books are at Amazon. And
Yes.
You get copies there. This is interesting. I am really excited. I would like to learn more.
Yeah, you learn something new every day, right, Zita?
Yeah, yes. So, wow.
Well, I think,
I'm glad.
it's appropriate for your program because I feel it really empowers whoever the animal parents are and the children as well with learning early on how to develop deeper relationships with their animals. But it's also empowering for our animals once we can communicate with them and find out more and appreciate them more and be able to hear what they want to teach us and get messages from them when they want to give us messages. It just totally changes their world as well. So that's why I call myself the animal-human relationship enricher, because it just does make those relationships so much richer when you have a better understanding why your animal's with you and what they want you to know.
Well, sometimes it could also be like the what's the word? Close, like answer questions and that kind of thing, like close that chapter of what and.
Yep, especially for bereaved animal parents and the children, and also the other animals in the family that are grieving for an animal who's passed. Getting answers to questions can help alleviate a lot of that guilt and grief, anxiety, feeling that they just can't move forward. They're just stuck in that deep grief. And getting answers can help. I spoke with a dog whose family were feeling really guilty about his death. They didn't know what happened. And when I spoke with him, he'd actually had a blood clot. So it's just something random, nothing that the family could have done anything about. And so that then gave them so much peace because they knew it wasn't their fault. He said it was just a very quick and painless passing. He didn't hold any grudges against them. And then I spoke with another family who were holding on a lot of guilt about their cat who'd passed away, and they felt that it wouldn't have passed away if circumstances had been different. And I just got a message that the cat's soul was in their dog. And I said to them, "Do you notice anything familiar about your dog?" And the mother and daughter just looked at each other and said, "He walks down the stairs the same way." And so we worked out that the cat's soul was in their new puppy. And so then all of that grief that they'd been holding on to and guilt, they could just let go because that soul was back with them in a new body. And that's just phenomenal that they can do that, but it makes such a difference. And I'm sure there's thousands or millions of people out there who are still carrying a lot of grief and regret and remorse about their animals, that if they had a conversation, that a lot of those emotions could be lifted. And you're just functioning at a higher level then, knowing that your animal is okay and safe, which is what the conversations show.
Wow. Thank you so much. And like I said, I would like to have you, in the future to really give us more updates. But before then, I'm inviting everybody to please check out Annie's books and educate yourself. Honestly, this is about education. It's about self-knowledge. We really need to learn, and here is an opportunity for all of us to learn about the animals that we live with in the same environment, same house for some people, and we share the universe with. It's good to know your neighbor, understand them, and that really life gets better when we're able to take time to learn the animals we relate with. So thank you. And our podcast is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're hoping that our audience have really been entertained, not only entertained, educated on this topic, important topic on animals and the way they relate with us and the way they communicate with us and their feelings too about, the environment and about the sex in relationship to the humans that they relate with. So thank you so much once again and have a wonderful day. Is that day now or night or?
Yes, it's day and we're in March, so I'm a day ahead of you. I love these time differences.
Yeah, I know. We still have some hours before we can get it to March, but enjoy your day. We will be going to sleep shortly. So thank you for coming. And
thank you.
Yeah, Hannah, thank you for coming also. Oh, you have a question?
Annie, I've been to Australia twice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fabulous country. And we went to New Zealand and the koalas. One of our trips, we went with a group of friends, and my friend is the travel agent, puts everything together. On her bucket list, she wanted to hold a koala bear. That was on her bucket list. So I'll never forget, we went to a beautiful, maybe like a wild, a preserve, and she was holding this koala bear and she was like in heaven.
Yep. I was chatting to Zita before we started that I've actually been to America a couple of times and similarly love the experiences I've had with animals there. So, yeah, I think it's just being open to the fact that we can just, even being in their presence can change us, being in their vibrational frequency. And they've just got so much love for us. So, yeah, talk to your animals.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you again for coming. And have a wonderful rest of your day and night. Thank you. Bye.
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 Recording stopped.